Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, welcome to Stay Level Avionix. Really excited to have you on board. Thanks again for tuning into this video. In this video we're going to be talking about the all-new RealSimGear G500. We're going to actually demo it in X-Plane. We've got a great Avionics package configuration here with the dual GNS430s. It's a very common Avionics configuration for one of the largest nationwide flight schools, actually, ATP. So if you're thinking about training at ATP, this may be a great setup for you, but we'll get into that a little bit later in the video. In the video, we're also going to be featuring the VirtualFly SWITCHO product lineup. So this is a product lineup that's going to be shipping in November 2022, and it's an all-new switch panel lineup. It's fully featured, everything from trim wheels to gear levers to parking brakes to lights to auto feather, to Avionics mesh. I mean, everything is really full featured in this SWITCHO lineup. We're going to talk a little bit about SWITCHO as well. So you can see the SWITCHO engines here on the left side. We've got the SWITCHO lights, SWITCHO trims. We've got some other hardware from VirtualFly here as well with their Yoko and their Vernio products. So we're going to just do a quick preview of the panel. Then we're going to demo it in X-Plane, actually see this G500 and dual GNS430s up and running, just like the real thing in the real plane if you happen to be training in that configuration. So really excited to go ahead and do that, and we'll get started. I mentioned RealSimGear, I mentioned VirtualFly, I did not mention Stay Level Avionix, the actual channel here. So if you don't know, Stay Level Avionix, we manufacture the tabletop avionics panels that you see in the marketplace. You see a ton of them. And we are actually the leader in these custom design build avionics panels, really in the premium category. And so we own, I would say, the material, the raw material, sourcing, the production, the CAD design, the engineering, where you literally, Ryan, my business partner, and I build these things. We build them once a month. And so if you're considering getting an avionics panel, if you've already got a plane and you want to enter into the simulation space a little bit more, our panels are very high quality. They're metal, they're powder coated. It's got a leather glare shield. It's super nice. Check out our reviews. I kind of let that do the talking for us, but it's been awesome. We've been doing it for about 4.5 years. And RealSimGear has been on this journey as well with us, and VirtualFly, right? And so that's what I always talk about. I talk about the partnership, the collaboration in this space. Singular alone, we can only make so much soup, right? But when you partner with everybody else together, we can all make a lot more soup. So sorry for the funny, silly analogy, but that's kind of how I think about it. And it really is just everybody coming together to bring these products to the consumers, so you guys can ultimately have just a much better, much more realistic product. So it's pretty awesome to know in the last, I'd say, 3 to 4 years how far we've advanced. Whether it's Honeycomb product, VirtualFly, RealSimGear, there's so many different partners that have really pushed this industry forward, and the software to go along with it too. So it is definitely a continued, really exciting time to be part of the flight simulation community. So really in this panel here specifically, this is a small panel. It's really pretty tight, pretty compact. It's great. It fits on the desk really nice. We've got our pedestal mounting system here. That pedestal mounting system is holding the Vernio throttle as well as the VirtualFly SWITCHO trims panel here. So I've been kind of dying for a trim wheel for a really long time, and you really want to demonstrate that good muscle memory, right? When you're flying in the real plane and flying in your simulator, typically that trim wheel is always to the right of you when you're training, and so you can see it's here. That trim wheel is going to be to the right. Within the SWITCHO trims, you got gear lever, you got flap lever, you got parking brake, and what's really slick about this is you can see within the Trimo here with the trims, the light panel, the engine panels. There's so many different toggle switches, and thinking about trying to configure all those toggle switches would really take a long time. But VirtualFly has really taken the simplicity of a plug and fly concept. They have some great software that I'm going to show here. It's called the VirtualFly Hub, and all of these components are recognized by the VirtualFly Hub. It then passes off all those toggle switch commands of these components to the simulator, to the airplane, so you actually don't need to go in and spend hours configuring all of the different switch panels. So that is an awesome win on the VirtualFly front. When we look here at the RealSimGear Avionics, Those of you who are training at ATP Flight School, for those who are flying the Piper Archer, they actually fly with a G500 configuration and dual GNS430s. And so that configuration has never existed before in the simulation space. Oftentimes people are in a flight simulator, it could even be an AATD simulator, an advanced aviation training device that may just be a steam gauge configuration on the screen that you're training on. Versus you can have something here at home that is truly the exact avionics, the split screen kind of PFD, MFD look of the G500, which I will demo for you here, and those GNS430s. So it really helps to get that menu, buttonology, navigation of the avionics. You know, when you want to set your minimums, it's big knob all the way to the right, push in, scroll down, you know, adjust them, and then push enter, and then return back out of the minimums menu, you know, but when you're setting up your approach for what you're going to do. So there's just so many really, really positive benefits here that many people who are flying this, whether you're ATP, whether you're a Part 61 operation, whatever kind of flight school you have, if you have these avionics, this is something that's definitely worth getting in your flight school and training with. So I think, you know, good overview here of the panel. It obviously looks really, really sharp. I want to power everything up. I want to get everything going. I want to show you some of that virtual fly hub. I want to show you how that RealSimGear plugin works. The 430s are going to be running off of Reality XP is what that's going to be running off of. Yeah, we'll go ahead. We'll get into it. Okay, so one thing that I want to talk about a little bit is I want to talk about the software that is connecting a few of these devices. So as I mentioned, I have all these SWITCHO products connected. I have the Yoko. This is what is called the Virtual Fly Hub. The Virtual Fly Hub is really the one spot where all of these different virtual fly products connect. So you can see here the Vernio, you can see down here SWITCHO lights, SWITCHO trims, SWITCHO engines. So a really nice piece of software. It picks up that everything is connected. When we load the simulator, it'll actually show the simulator up there in the top corner, and we'll actually show configuring and pushing all the buttons and what's actually happening in the plane itself. Now on the right side here, we've also got the RealSimGear firmware update utility. So you can see here, we've got the RealSimGear GMA350, we've got the GNS430, we have all those installed, all those firmwares are completely up to date, and then we've got our additional GNS430 V3, that firmware is completely up to date. So you've got a couple of really great utilities that are really nice. There is also a RealSimGear plugin that we run for installing things and really configuring the sim with the bezels for Reality XP. But we'll go ahead, we'll actually load up here into X-Plane and start to show some of this. Okay, so as I mentioned, I've got everything here hooked up. We're in X-Plane 11, we're in a Cessna 172. I've got all of the SWITCHOs hooked up, yokes, throttles, GNS430s, the G500, everything is configured here. And so what you can actually see in the aircraft as well is you can see the software version of the G500, and then you have the hardware version, the actual bezel replicated right here. So really nice. There's the bezel. It's actually backlit. Really great buttons, really nice buttons. You got our SWITCHO products over here, SWITCHO lights over here, got our GNS430s. And so all these things are configured, and this is really, really cool. But when I go ahead and I actually flip on the battery master here, all this turns on. Everything here is configured. Okay, so really, really sharp there. We've got our G1000, or G500, I'm so used to saying G1000. We've got our G500 here. It's rolling through all these screens here. So go ahead, we can push OK. And this is neat here, you actually see the actual test that it runs through. And so when we're on GPS 1, you can actually look and see all these different flags and whatnot. So you can see flag, half up, half deflected there. One should be 150, there's 150, it's pointing to 150. DTK 150, so you can see DTK 150. So all these things actually match, which is really neat. So you can actually just hit OK on that, and then you can move over to some of the different menus here and standard avionics configurations that you've got. So back to the configuration here in the actual aircraft. Once again, this is the 172. It's on the G500 basically added to it. But I mean, if I was going to actually be loading up an approach here, it could be very simple. you know, can do all of that here with a flight plan. So if I wanted to go, you know, up to Milwaukee, okay, PWK. So this is an airport up here in northern Chicago, and just go right like there, right? So Chicago Executive, activate. Now we're going there. It's now drawing the line. If I wanted to actually see, hey, does this kind of make sense for where we're going? Absolutely, that makes complete sense for where we're going. So, you know, if I wanted to actually set up the approach, I know that if I go over here to my minimums page, it's all the way, big button all the way down to the right, and then we could actually go ahead and we could set in our minimums here. For example, let's say it's 1,200 feet would be our DA, and we'll push enter, and it'll take that, and then we can actually go back to our page, and you can really just have a field day setting up all these avionics is my point. Just like the real plane. So that's the G500. I want to show off just the SWITCHO just a little bit more here. So SWITCHO is just super powerful. Once again, you know, these here, these switches, you can see I'm actually moving them, and it's moving the key. So I didn't have to configure anything. Everything just works. So we can just go ahead, start, come out of here, pull the throttle out just a little bit. Now kind of set up here. Parking brake is really nice to have down here. You can have the parking brake. You can go in, you can go out. So once again, that's really nice to have the parking brake. Cowl flaps if your airplane were equipped with it. You can do your flaps up and down. So I can show here. Flaps up, flaps down. So overall, just super nice. The days of spending hours and hours and hours kind of configuring the avionics, I would say, is sort of gone with the virtual fly setup here. So what we're going to actually do here now, I want to just taxi around, but you can see I'm just zooming in. So looking at the G500 itself, you can see what a lot of the different functionality here, right? So you can bug, you know, current headings and things like that. So really like to use the heading bug with aileron and crosswind correction when taxiing is really nice. Altitude, same thing. You can bug an altitude. So if you're practicing instrument procedures, and, you know, they say, you know, climb to flight level, or not flight level, but climb to 4,000 feet, you can bug it, for example, or bug a heading. Your altimeter, real easy to adjust right there. You can even adjust, you know, vertical speed if you want to bug that. Let's say you're on an approach and you want to just bug a nice 500 foot descent, right? You can just bug that right there. So there's a lot of functionality really built into the G500 that's really nice, and it's a very popular training set of avionics, and there's a reason why. It's kind of like a mini G1000 for the most part. All right, so thanks again for tuning in. This here was the RealSimGear G500 with the dual GNS430s. So really neat. Awesome to see these now finally hitting the market. We're happy to do any type of custom panels that you've got here. You can see an example here with all the SWITCHO components as well from Virtual Fly. So it looks really nice. And any other questions, let us know. Drop us an email. We'll catch you guys later. Stay level.